Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If anybody watching, this is the Media Watch. Robert Raffelli and I. He's in someplace else. I'm not sure where he is. Anyway, she does the show with this Zoom thing. That's another new deal, and so we're doing this show and talking about the media, what's going on, and today's media is just one thing after the other. And they have a lot of it, of course, is Donald Trump. How bad this guy is now. Well, in fact, just recently now he's too old now for it. Some people are saying that he looks bad, and he probably is going to. This is going to be a tough one for him. Anyway, but he's okay now. At any rate, that's what we do. We do Media Watch and look at different things. We have some videos, have some pictures, and Rob does this work as far as getting all this material. And we talk about a lot of different things. Anyway, what's the first one, Rob?
First one I want to use picture number 110. I'm looking at the absurdity, the things that one finds directly in the media, like in this case, in the New York Post. It's the concept here is, yes, I say in the blue, semantically sloppy, because beloved Long Island veteran killed by stolen car just moments after visiting granddaughter at school. So was it a self-driving car? It's like, it's like horrible, nasty screed written by pencil. Yeah. Anyway, what?
So the guy who driving the car was not a citizen, I gather. Is that it? Or what was he? Or what was he? Is that what it is?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But the key here is
that's what they're doing. They're doing a lot of that kind of stuff in the news these days.
When do we ascribe? It's like so and so shot by gun. They say yes. Everybody who's shot is hit by a bullet that came out of a gun. Doesn't it matter who did it?
Yeah.
After all, I got a gun in the house. It hasn't shot anybody. Is it because it's a nice gun? What's up there?
Yeah. And they're doing that a lot. These immigrants of one kind or another are dangerous. A lot of them are. But then when you get 11 million people, you're going to get a nice chunk of people that are not really. They're bad. a lot of them have been convicted elsewhere. In fact, some of them are running from the crime from the country they're coming from. They come to the United States and then they disappear. And one of the things they say, well, that's just an ordinary thing. It happens, like the subway stuff in New York and so on and so forth. It's an odd one. Most people, the chance of being getting run over by a truck is in the millions pretty much. But in this case, of course, we're talking about people just killing people for no reason, burning them, setting them on fire, things like that. But it's not you. Most of the people don't do it. But the trouble is, it could be you. Very easily could be you. In a lot of places you go. I had a woman that works for me, and she's a Mexican lady, and she's an American citizen, and she goes to Mexico not real frequently, but her mother's down there, and she's not in very good shape, so she has to go down there quite frequently. As I just got through saying, maybe every few months he goes there. But lately, she was going to be going down for 10 days. She came back in 5 days because she it was like she went to a restaurant. People were looking at her and kind of sizing her up for a deal, and she just, it wasn't too good. And you're walking down the street. She was in central Mexico City. And walking down the street and so on, it was scary for her. Well, she was by herself. I don't know if she was actually by herself and so on. That's the deal. Now you want to be doing that in Santa Barbara, walking down the street, and for fear that you're going to be, hit, shot, or some idiot's going to come up and just beat the crap out of you. That can happen to you, right?
Yeah. Well, the older I get, the more likely people will see me as a potential victim.
Yeah, they get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, to me, the point isn't about, immigrants are evil. I'm saying if you let a ton of them in and some of them start doing bad stuff, we as Americans have to look at our government and say, yes, some of this happens when there are no immigrants. And I want it to be the number when there are no immigrants because you let them in and now I got more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what I'm
Right.
saying. Out of 11 million, you can probably look at hundreds of thousands of them are you wouldn't want in your house for sure. Just stay bad in whatever country you are. Go ahead. How do they have that big jail now in Guatemala or Nicaragua? The modern jail down there. It was like they were promoting it like it was some kind of spa down in one of those countries. Any rate.
Well, one last thing about our mutual acquaintance, Jim Worthen, his comment was, probably 5 to 10% of people are basically criminal. So he says, what you look at any big, big influx of people into the country or something big like the army or whatever, he says, yeah, you're going to have some criminals there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I always think of the term crime suppression, which is even criminals can be rational enough that if they think, oh my God, something horrible is going to happen to me if I commit a crime, they'll usually refrain, or at least refrain when they think they can be caught. They can inhibit themselves if they really want to.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Something we had going on in the last few weeks is a guy used to be on Fox News, and before that, in fact, he was on CNN. That would be Tucker Carlson. He had a guy on to interview on his podcast, and that guy is somebody whose name has been in the news more lately. His name is Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
I'm going to show a little bit about that, and I think we ought to cover a little of Nick Fuentes. He's only 27 now. He was about 17 when he got on online. And
Yeah.
anyway,
I guess
he's
he has
somebody who
has a big
he's somebody
following.
who will, he'll say people would say racially insensitive things.
Yeah.
I don't think he seems to want anything bad to happen to anybody, but he speaks insensitively, and people have been shrieking about Tucker Carlson, you platformed. Isn't that a great thing? We verbed it out. If somebody gets a chance to speak, we say you platformed him. Yeah, well, people are supposed to be able to talk, even people with unpopular opinions. Anyhow, let's show a little of him. I have 2 or 3 pictures, and I just want you to get an idea. I'll send people to look up Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and see what they had to say. But let's go with picture number 150.
155. 150, yeah, you're right. Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
150, 155, 157. Yeah, that's not it, but we'll get back to that in a bit.
That's not 150.
No, that's
That's 250.
Right,
There we go. There he is.
Yeah.
I never
So
heard of this
this
guy.
This is what he looks like in his podcast.
I like his shirt.
Yeah, he got him there, and in 155 and 157. Actually, he doesn't appear. Anyway, I put this here because this is Nick Fuentes, and Ben Shapiro is another guy who we hear online a lot, who's been pretty popular. Anyway, he thinks that Nick Fuentes is horrible because Nick Fuentes feels like we spend too much money on Israel, and Ben Shapiro is a Jewish American, and for that matter, a dual citizen also with Israel, and he's always support Israel all the time. Whereas
this is
Fuentes,
this is the Shapiro that's the governor of Pennsylvania?
no, this is the different Shapiro.
Different Shapiro, okay. I was going to say.
Right. No, this Ben Shapiro has a show called The Daily Wire, and he's been a pretty interesting conservative. I've gone to a talk or 2 of his myself, and I was enjoying him for a few years, but basically he's kind of conservative, except if anybody says, I don't feel like I want to be involved in wars just because Israel's involved in them, he says, well, you're an anti-Semite. So you could not want to be involved in a war and not be an anti-Semite, in my humble opinion.
Yeah.
After all of Israel's neighbors hate it, or seem to, and maybe Saudi Arabia not as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he says, "Hey, yeah, I'm an American. What I really, really, really want is I want America to be okay." So he's not against Israel. He just says, "Let's make sure that the first thing in your thoughts as an American is America."
Yeah.
So anyway, so he says, Fuentes claims that he's America first, and he says Ben Shapiro is Israel first.
Yeah.
He says the same thing of Mark Levin. You probably still see Mark Levin on Fox News. He's got a show of his own, sometimes called Life, Liberty, and Levin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Shapiro and Levin are just screaming at how absolutely horrible.
Levin had this guy. Levin had this guy on his show.
No.
Oh.
No. He just screams about him and says how awful he is.
That would be weird.
At this point, Levin and Shapiro are also screaming about Tucker Carlson. They have nothing good to say about him ever since he had Fuentes on. So anyway, it's a little media war. We don't know how that's going to work out yet.
Yeah. Well, like I say, that's it. And now you got your own. We used to in my time first in when it started out. It was three networks: ABC, CBS, and NBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the three of them. In fact,
Yep,
it was really NBC and CBS, and then ABC that came along a little bit later. Now it's everybody. We can do a show. Anybody can watch this show, in the world, in the whole world. I've had people from different shows that I've done. I had a whole bunch of people from Warsaw, Poland, call me because the show had been aired in Warsaw. That was with Judy Mikovits, and had been aired there. And they got email. They threw my email address up, and I got some these things from Warsaw, and it looked like there was the show was watched by 69,000 Warsawians and so on. That's in Poland, and she's a very well-known figure for the different things and so on. But I'm not going to get into that. But anti-vax basically. That's what she's really into.
Mm-hmm.
Any rate, today, you can. It's hard not to see a lot of different people. In fact, on these, all we see on Fox and other places too, they get a guest on, and it's the name of a person, and it just says podcast, and
Mm-hmm.
they're different every time. There's hundreds of them. This is a podcast, essentially.
Well, look at it, how big a podcast can be. Look at Joe Rogan. This guy's got, I don't know, a few tens of millions of followers.
Yeah, right. He did. A lot of people.
I mean,
He does.
And he was in the World Wrestling Federation, and
Yeah.
then he was a host on a sort of reality show. It was called Fear Factor.
Yeah.
People, you're going to be plunged into a vat of spiders or whatever. Anyway, and then turned out he was pretty good at the hosting thing, and people liked him. He started his own podcast. And look, Donald Trump has been on his podcast, and
Yeah.
and for that matter, Kamala Harris was also invited to be on the podcast, and they were sort of interested, except I think they realized that Kamala Harris could not sustain the format.
Yeah.
Because Joe Rogan's format is the long format.
Yeah.
His interview with you is 2 to 3 hours long.
What is this viewership now? How many people?
Probably like 20 million, 30 million, something
Wow.
like that.
Holy mackerel!
Yes. So anyway,
Oh, wow.
now we know that Trump can handle a 2 or 3 hour interview. Trump, you could sit down with Trump and he could talk about pretty much anything you wanted for the next 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
And he'd be interesting, and he'd throw things out that you could chew on, and if he didn't have an opinion about something, he'd say, I don't know too much about that. Let's pick something else. But when Kamala Harris, for all I know, I'll grant to any Democrat viewers for all I know, she might not have been a horrible president. But the thing is, we could see that if she had a few talking points, she wasn't going to go too far beyond that.
Yeah.
And she had a whole long list of things that she wouldn't talk about. Like Rogan
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I'd love to have you on." Of course, one of the things that I'm going to have to talk to you about is Joe Biden's mental state and how long he's been declining. And so, well, that wasn't that's something that they could talk about. And Rogan said, "Well, gee, I would feel like I wasn't really doing my job if we didn't discuss that as one of the things that we're talking about in the 2 or 3 hours we'll be chatting."
Yeah.
But anyway, they decided that they didn't need him, and they might very well have been right, because she might have lost worse.
Yeah. Now this is Biden that was going to be on the show, or
No, it would have been was Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. Yeah, the
I
vice
would have
president.
been. I'd like to have seen it with Tim Walz.
Yeah.
Tim Walz was, in my humble opinion, he was squirrely.
Yeah.
There's just something about that guy and his presentation. But again, for all I know, maybe he could at least talk. Maybe he'd have been. Maybe he would have been solid in a long format. But
Yeah.
what I like about he'll talk to people who are suitors. But if you have something to say, however weird, he'll let you say it.
Yeah.
He'll ask you hard questions, but you can go on at length. He doesn't cut you off.
Yeah. Yeah, the shows are pretty long, aren't they? It can be several
Yeah.
hours, right? They
Right,
talk to people, talk to some important people, supposedly.
Yeah.
Right.
And like I said, Trump went on. All sorts of
That's
people
right.
go on it.
Well, who wouldn't be? You're reaching 30 or 40 million, or 20 or 30 million people. Yeah, you want to get on,
Yeah.
want to get on for sure.
And he doesn't insist on Republicans. In fact, he's probably more liberal than conservative himself. But
Yeah.
and he has lots of liberals on. But
Yeah.
thing is, but what I like is he'll let you run with it. You want to get your ideas out there, but some of my ideas they don't fit on a bumper sticker. So he'll let you talk.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like I just said now a few times here now. That's that podcast stuff. How long he will last. We'll see what happens. But people go away too. When the woman on the CNN, she's all by herself, and then I don't know, she got fired basically, then rehired back. I can't remember, but she lost an audience as soon as Trump got elected, I guess it was. And of course, Don Lemon. Or Lemon and so on. Now, to admit it that Donald Trump was elected this last time around, 24. He was off the air basically. I mean, I think it was even before that, and there was no comeback at all. And Donald Trump, for him, when Donald Trump was in office, it made Don Lemon. He had a house. He had 2 different houses in New York, and then one up on Long Island, someplace, and one in Florida. He probably, hopefully, maybe he doesn't have them now. But the bottom line is that Donald Trump was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You must have been thinking of Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. Yeah, she like Don Lemon, she could not go more than 30 seconds into a show without saying Trump several times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you couldn't go on a show without for a few minutes even without him talking about Donald Trump. Don Lemon's show. He was just after him. He made him. People watch the show. Once
you'll
that
be
was
glad to know.
Yeah, once that
You'll
was
be glad
over.
to know that you can find Don Lemon if you want to.
Yeah.
He too has a podcast.
It was after. Okay, I made a mistake. It was after Donald Trump lost in 2020. When he lost. That's when he was gone. No, 2016. That's what it was. Then Donald Trump. Lemon sort of went. Every once in a while you hear about him someplace. He tried to get back on, and this couldn't do it. That's coming. The bottom line is they come and go.
Well, by the way, that's what Twitter, now X, is for, because you can find Don Lemon and all sorts of Democrats I don't give a rap about, but you can subscribe to their channels. You can go straight to X and follow them.
Yeah.
And Don Lemon can say something unbelievably stupid to you every day.
Yeah, and I know that's the thing. What about the guy that we know, of course, was on on the Fox News, and they fired him. They got rid of him, but then he opened up some kind of podcast or some other studio, and now he has a larger audience now than he did when he was on Fox News. Carlson.
Yeah, you're talking about Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, Carlson. So he's getting a better audience now than he had. And of course, nobody can fire him now. He can do whatever he wants, and he's doing pretty well, I guess.
Yeah, he has a good show. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I did
don't watch
too.
it all the time,
I thought it was very good too. It's because he's very intellectual. He was, I don't know, a lot of things.
Here's one of the great things about. I'll mention. You might want to go to X and start following Tucker Carlson. One great thing about it, he'll have the show might be more than an hour long, but as soon as it's done, you'll find that they publish right above it what time marks. You'll find various topics being covered. so you can actually click on each one of those because it's a link, and you can go straight to the topic that they're covering.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he can get anybody to come on his show because they have an audience, like Kamala Harris. She'll go on that Rogan show or whatever his name is, and because 30 million people, what she got to lose? Although I don't think she has any chance of any kind of political career now. I mean, it was the worst thing in the world. I was thinking about that today, boy. What they should have done is, when they found out about Biden and they wanted to get rid of him, they should have found the candidate at their convention, but not Pelosi and the other ones who just said, well, no, we're going to go for her, and of course that's what they did, and that was a big mistake. Yeah. I think that was the big mistake because they could have got a lot of different people. It might have been a real mess as far as those conventions are concerned. I always like to say about 1920. The Republican National Convention, it was 103 votes before they could get, and then they had some dark horse. I can't remember who was elected offhand, but anyway, he actually died in office. Anyway, that's what a convention's all about. You want to find the right people. When Lincoln in 1860, he didn't get run in the first run around. In fact, others were much more ahead of him. He had been a congressman, but he was just a lawyer from Illinois. Illinois for that matter. And there was a lot of votes, and they finally just settled on Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Democracy is a wonderful thing. Boy, you can talk about, you can do all kinds of things like that, and talk, like they always talk about. This is the only president that's done this, and so on and so forth, and the government in general.
Yeah, didn't we get a laugh out of that with what was it? Here was Trump a comeback after the Biden presidency. They said, no one has ever done this before, you guys. Grover Cleveland? Does anybody here have a history book?
Yeah.
Yes, it's been done.
Yeah. Well, there's been scandals and stuff like that about it, and of course a lot of them have died in office, in that. Harry Truman, of course, was vice president, and when the FDR died, nobody really knew who he was.
No.
In fact, I don't think FDR really, when he named him as the vice presidential nominee for 1944 in that convention and so on, it was sort of, he really didn't know who he was. And in fact, Harry Truman really doesn't know much about anything that's going on with the government. They told him about the A-bomb after, and not right away, about the A-bomb a few days later. Otherwise, he had no idea that was going on, and a lot of people didn't, of course. That was very much a secret deal. And I think Harry Truman was a pretty good president, to be honest with you.
Not bad. Let's the Charlie Kirk murder isn't too far behind us. I'd like to throw my Charlie Kirk video because some people think the Charlie Kirk was drifting. Anyway, I'd like to show the video that's labeled 160. Let's see if we can do that. 160.
150. Where is it?
60,
And
160.
Jewish donors, they
150.
have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews.
Yeah, that's another one that got, talk about the people, shooting. Kirk, of course, was shot when he was making the speech, wherever it was. I think it was in Idaho, wasn't it, or someplace out there. At any rate,
Utah.
it was Utah. And he was I didn't know the guy from, I never listened to the guy or I never heard about him even, but doesn't really matter, but he was very popular with a lot of people. In fact, when he was shot, boy, the whole nation just shut down. It was all over and that's what could happen to a lot of people. That people want to shoot him, and it's tough. You want to say stuff on TV and so on. Well, if somebody out there says, "I'm going to end that guy's show forever," and that's of course what he did with Kirk. Although his wife's now taken over. Kirk's wife's taken over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell you that most people don't have the time to poke around this stuff, and I don't blame them. But if you dig a little bit into almost any of this stuff, and conspiracy theories start popping up, and there's several about him. They're just heck. I don't want to dig too big a hole for myself. I'll just tell you that. If you sniff around a little, you'll find conspiracy theories about practically everything, including Charlie Kirk. Somebody who talks about him and about some other interesting stuff is Candace Owens, and she's somebody else who's butting heads with Ben Shapiro. Anyway, Candace Owens also has been she's getting sued by President Macron of France and his wife Brigitte, and it's because Candace Owens didn't turn the evidence up, but has popularized some stuff about claims that Brigitte Macron was born a man. And even if Brigitte Macron was not born a man, it was the woman that she's presented as, it's still really, really creepy because she's much older than Macron and supposedly was a teacher and took a shine to him when he was like 15. So it's...
Yeah.
Whatever it is, and I don't know what it is, and I don't have the goods on anybody, but even if it's just as presented, it's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're trying to sue her. And of course, then there's others who say, well, actually, they may have put out a hit on her. Anyway, I don't have anything about that, so I'll go with we know that they're suing her.
Yeah.
So they want to shut her up that way.
Yeah. You want to run that 810? That's was it 6 Congress people?
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Let's do 810 and let's follow it up with 820.
810.
Yeah, this is a big one on the news lately.
Yeah, this is the illegal. If it's illegal, you don't do it.
Yeah, it's about.
Tell a general that.
Most people don't understand what's happening. Europe is being imploded
That's
on
not the
purpose.
one.
You do not accidentally flood your country with third world
The
wars.
one
You do
right
not
after that.
accidentally let crime
I
run
see. I
rampant.
had two 810s. That's terrible. I'm sorry. It's the other 810. I should have renumbered that.
810. Oh, there's two of them.
that-
Yeah,
that
you're right.
was,
There's two
but
of them. Yeah.
That's not Michael's fault.
And
The
Senator
other one.
Melissa Slotkin.
There you go.
There we go.
Mark Kelly, Representative
Oh,
Chris
sorry.
DeLuzio,
Congresswoman Maddie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow,
I was a captain in the United States Navy,
Former CIA officer.
former Navy,
former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
And the intelligence community.
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now. Americans trust their military.
But that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
And intelligence community professionals.
Against American citizens.
like us. You all swore an oath.
To protect and defend this Constitution.
Right now, The threats to our Constitution aren't just coming from abroad,
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
But whether you're serving in the CIA,
In the Army,
Our Navy,
the Air Force,
your vigilance is critical
and know that we have your back.
because now, more than ever,
The American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws.
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
All right. Did you notice how vague we were?
How what?
How vague?
Vague?
Did anyone there describe any illegal order?
That's exactly what I was going to say. What illegal order that they took care of? I guess those was boats and coming from Venezuela or something like that and so on. But
Who knows? They didn't say.
yeah, I know
Yes,
that's right. They
that-
didn't say right.
Yeah.
And I would any military person who gets an order from a higher up of officer, higher in rank than they are, has to fulfill that order. That's what they do. And that,
Sure.
you know, it's not. You may not really like it that much, but that doesn't matter. For example, a lot of soldiers were in different places. I don't know if they're in Chicago yet, but they are in Washington D.C. And you don't hear much about them basically because they just sort of hang out, I guess. But they're there, and crime rate's gone down, and that's. But I think that's maybe one of the illegals. The military should not be called out. Although I was part of a called out. They called out the entire 40th Infantry Division, and when the riots down in Los Angeles, we all went. We all went down there, and we didn't have much to do. We basically were there. We went out on patrol a couple of times, and. No, but they didn't have guns. We did. Trouble is, we didn't have any. We didn't have any ammunition for the gun. Anyway, carbines. We had never fired those things. Anyway, there's a different era these days. You know, you have people that are real. They're trained to do just this kind of thing, and you don't even haven't heard any of that stuff of that where they shot somebody was holding up a sign or throwing a rock at them or whatever the heck they're doing, or burning their car. They didn't do any of that, and it went away. The one in L.A., they were crowding up to the place where they were taking all these immigrants and all that, and they called out the National Guard. I think they came from different states, and they put it down. Basically, people they couldn't get what they wanted to do. And they finally gave up. And by the way, that's another little thing, everybody, especially you young guys that go out and you want to go out and go to these protests and so on and so forth. I know why you're going. Pretty much so, because you got girls going out of there too, good-looking women, and they believe what you believe. I mean, you believe whatever they believe. It's a romance. And I know a lot of guys do just that. That's why they go to protests, to meet girls, meet women. Put that in your safe there, ladies. Anyway.
Well, long ago I went to a few of those. I was not there to meet women, but I was watching to see what the heck went on. And I was not specially protesting myself, but I thought, this is some kind of event. And one of them was, I'm not sure what kind of protest it was, but they actually walked all the way down from Isla Vista, down Los Carneros, over to the freeway, and they blocked the freeway.
Yeah.
Well, I don't block any freeways, and I looked at that and I said, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I don't think I want to be part of that.
Exactly.
So
avoid that, right?
I didn't get even within 100 yards of the freeway, but they said, how this stuff works is they say, well, they won't pay attention unless we make them pay attention. Well, they make them pay attention by committing crimes.
Yeah. It's free speech. They call that free. You can burn somebody's car. That's part of the free speech, the First Amendment. You can do that because it's free speech, free your attitudes. Blocking the freeway, or getting in fistfights. That's a protest. And by the way, that's not the word that you use in the Constitution of the United States, the First Amendment. It's the right to assembly. And
to peacefully assemble and petition for a redress of grievances.
Yeah, right. And that it doesn't amount to killing people even. Obviously,
and petition means ask.
Right. The right to free speech. In fact, you may be one of the victims that yelling out the free speech. And the other guy has free speech too. Keep in mind, free speech is not all totally. Good, basically. Yeah, everybody has a right to free speech. I have a right also to not listen to you. And if you say something and so on about somebody else, you can get sued for saying that. But it's free speech. If you want to, say something about somebody, that's right. You can be taken to court, and other things too. I have it written down. I should have brought it with me. Free speech has limitations, basically, as far as what you can do. And that I have, in this situation right now, it's a free speech. I have the right to do it. And also, that's the last one. You have a right to make an asshole of yourself. You got up on, people say, what this guy even talking about? Well, like me right now. What is this guy talking about? He's a joke. If you want it, that's fine. But free speech doesn't have its total limitations. Put it that way. There's a couple of things I've even forgotten about it. Anyway.
Well, we have one other like that. Number 820 as Mark Kelly there. He's the guy who likes to put astronaut over his name all the time. He's a senator from Arizona. Took the seat that vacated by Kristen Sinema.
Yeah, there's a free speech right there. I mean, he says he's telling soldiers not to obey orders. Well, who's like you were saying, what illegal things that they do that that they shouldn't go out? You decide that? Do you, Kelly, decide that? Well, yeah, obviously you do. Anything Donald Trump does, it does. Plays golf. That's against the law. That shouldn't be done. On and on, it goes on and on.
But what he's
being tried for it now because he is an active duty person.
Go to the judge, advocates generals, the lawyers, and have a discussion about it. If you don't have time, you just say simply, "I'm not going to do that. That's against the law."
It puts a lot of burden on the troops to make a decision in real time.
It's a tremendous amount of burden on officers in the military, but that is their responsibility, and they can figure out. A reasonable person can tell something that is legal and something that is illegal.
So would you refuse these specific orders to strike drug boats if you were still in uniform?
Well, the difference between the initial strike and what is being reported, as a second strike, and those things are different. I think this administration has tied themselves in knots, the explanations that we have received on how this is all legal. And I was saying weeks ago, my concern is with the service members, that we're gonna put these individuals in a really, really tough decision, in a tough place. And they may find out, down the road that they did something that is illegal. It is not fair to them. That's why we need presidents and Secretary of Defense who understand the Constitution and understand the rule of law and have more respect for the Constitution and the country and service members than the whims of a president.
A duly elected president, eh?
Yeah, it's a good example of the military telling the military to not obey orders. I don't think so. Plus the fact I throw a little fact out here: that 63% of the media has voted for Donald Trump in both the elections, and even in one Biden. They voted 63%, but they believe in what he's. Obviously they. Talk about free speech. Yeah, we believe in what he's doing. I think, and he never mentions what exactly is, as you said. he never mentions what the illegal order was, does he?
No, it's just, look, they hate Donald Trump. They want to say that everything that Donald Trump is bad, everything he says is bad, everything he thinks is bad, and when he picks up his fork to eat a bite of steak, it's bad.
Yeah.
Here's how something I decided a long time ago as a gun owner talking to people who were anti-gun. I said, ain't nothing I'm ever going to do going to make you happy. And that being the case, I feel excused from trying to make you happy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Trump has a similar feeling. Just make them happy. How do you do that?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's going to be something that, and I think this Kelly guy, they're trying to prosecute him now. He is a active duty serviceman. He's on the payroll, put it that way.
He can be recalled to active duty.
Yeah.
Some people are retired and couldn't be, but he's somebody who could be recalled to active duty and court-martialed. I don't know whether that's a good idea or it isn't, but it's I've heard it talked about.
Yeah.
And it's like this. Just because I don't like him doesn't mean that he shouldn't be prosecuted.
Yeah.
I mean, but I really don't like him. But I don't know. Let's.
Well, he's the elected representative from Arizona, unfortunately, and he was the husband of the woman that was attacked. She was a congresswoman, and
Gabriella Giffords.
Yeah, and she's not. She had never really recovered from that, and then he ran for the Senate and has now been reelected again. So he has been two seconds.
And I'm kind of the impression that Gabby Gifford may not have been the primary target. I think there was a judge there that also either got shot or shot at. Yeah. I think that he might have been the primary target, but unfortunately she caught a bullet in the head, and there isn't really a good place in your head to be shot.
Yeah. No, that's for sure, but she survived it, amazingly enough.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah, she's walking around, and I'm sure she's impaired, but thank God she lived and managed to have something of a life afterward.
Right. Okay, we got about 15 minutes left here. What else?
Where would we like to be?
There's so much. There's so much to cover here. Go ahead.
Yeah, how about a little cultural stuff? You like the Sweden one? How about that shot from Stockholm? That's video number 430.
Yeah, let's see what that guy says.
And by the way, I have a friend living in Stockholm now.
Yeah.
I'll have to talk to him about it soon.
Okay.
salaada ciida marka laga soo baxo rinkii miisaas bay u taagan tahay.
The idea here is that this has changed a bit. This is not the. Now you've been in Stockholm, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah. What? I'm sorry. What did you say?
Have you been in Sweden?
Yeah, I have been to Sweden, but this is many, many years ago. This is like 50 years ago.
So did it look like that?
Actually, maybe 50, even 60 years ago, I was there,
Yeah,
and I didn't.
like
there was no immigration then too, and I was in downtown Stockholm. It's a great place. I mean, really, I am Swedish heritage, and I have relatives there who I've never seen. Bottom line, although there at that time we did see some of the relatives we did. In fact, a lot of them came over here to visit people in Southern California. I don't think any of them stayed. That's not true. I did have a guy who I was related to somehow or other, and he came over and he spent the summer here I think it was the summer here, and he worked for me, sort of, but he was interested in playing golf. That's what he really wanted to do. In fact, he bought golf clubs to take back to Sweden with him and so on. And I didn't hear. He became a banker, and I think I connected with him a couple of times, within the first 2 years, and haven't seen him since. Anyway, the bottom line is, yeah, Sweden, but it's a different country now. I talked to some Swedes, and that's exactly what they see there. That's Somalia. You want to give that statistic about how many came in and how many found a job?
Sure, that would be, that's the picture number 490.
Yeah.
Let's pull that up.
There it is. 162 refugees, 494 actually got a job. Well, what happened to the rest of them? Well, they've got a free apartment, they get free food, they get free education, they get, everything in the world.
They get a bus and a train pass.
Yeah, right. And
So
they're not going to leave. Although I've heard, I was telling you this before the show started, telling you that they complained. They complain about the place that they're living in, Stockholm, Sweden. What is it they're worried about? Because it's too cold. They come from Somalia. There's no snow in Somalia, not that I know of at least. But they actually complain about it. Yeah, they're also going to school to learn Swedish or English. Well, actually, Swedes have to learn English. That's what in the very early grades. When you're actually going to school, you have to learn English besides. Anyway, the bottom line is they teach these Somalia and others too, I think it's Iranians too and so on, that they teach them the Swedish. And you don't hear much about it, but it's not really very popular in Sweden as far as I know. I've talked to a few Swedes, put it that way, and they didn't like it. They thought the country was on the hell. At least they can't vote. Or can they? Maybe they can.
I don't know. I'm not specifically anti-foreigner. I feel like most countries have not held a plebiscite where, for instance, in the Netherlands, did they ever do a plebiscite where they said, so we're asking all citizens, would you like to not be Dutch anymore? So yeah, it's like, do you want Sweden to not be Sweden?
Yeah.
I don't think that there's anything wrong. In fact, if you like diversity, then countries should be different.
Yeah.
Not all homogenized so that all of them have a big old mix. As somebody said, England is supposed to be, it's a country, not an address.
Yeah. Yeah, whole country, and they have certain things that they do. But they took the asylum people in. I give them credit for that. They took people in that they thought, at least, needed to have this asylum. Well, it turned out there was only that many, 162,000. That's peanuts compared to what we had. But there's always a few in there that are the same thing. They're going to get they're there to kill and rob people and things like that, and sell drugs, things like that. Yeah. Albanians are the ones that I worry about. Those people.
You may remember that in the 60s and 70s, we often heard from the Swedes who were criticizing America, basically telling us that we were terrible with our racial relations and that we just we weren't as civilized as they were and so on. And I recall my dad looking up from it, and he says, Sweden is like 99.5% white. He says, you might want to try this, walk a mile in our shoes before you decide that we stink. Because you may find that it's not as easy as it looks.
Speaking of that, you had a very good friend that went to Sweden quite a bit. He had all kinds of friends over there.
Uh-huh.
What was they?
Oh, sure. That was my buddy Wozni. And I tell you, actually, I was just talking with. He was my best friend. He had another best friend, and Jeff, also a wonderful guy. He's Swedish American, and he married a Swedish woman. Well, they just in the last year they moved back to Stockholm. And it was just like yesterday or the day before, for the first time, I used the WhatsApp application on my phone and had a conversation with him while he was in Stockholm, and I was having a video call, a private video call with his old buddy. Anyway, yes, my buddy Jim, who you were talking about, he learned Swedish because he knew Jeff and his wife Karen, and he thought, hey, they're talking up Sweden, and it sounds great, and it looks great in the pictures. So he studied Swedish, and then he traveled to Sweden.
Yeah. Well, actually, you can get by pretty much. I was, in Sweden, especially in the cities. You can get by with stuff like that. In fact, there's one of the little families we stayed with. He had a Samoan girlfriend, good looking, and I don't know what she was doing, but anyway, he said, isn't it great that people speak English in Sweden? But he says it's only in the cities that the people that really know about it. Anyway, yeah, and then he wasn't Swedish though, was he?
No, Jim was Polish. He's Polish American.
Polish American, okay. Did he go to Poland much?
No, hardly at all. He only knew a few words. He said that his parents and grandparents and the older family, they kept Polish as a private language, so they didn't teach the kids Polish because they wanted people to talk behind their backs.
Yeah.
So he said when he heard them talking Polish, he knew that they were talking things that they didn't want the kids to know.
Yeah. That's what gets me. In this country, we all come from immigrants. I'm only second generation here of all my grandparents, the mother and father of my father and my mother were born in Sweden. In fact, as my mother, her mother, Bida, she could barely speak English. That's all she really talked about was in Swedish. And in fact, my mother could speak Swedish. She could write Swedish. She could understand Swedish. And my father, he understood Swedish, but he couldn't speak it or write it. But he knew it. His mother was born in Sweden too. But he didn't get he could understand it though when his mother was talking to him. But not that many other people. Let's face it, we are all immigrants here. Even the Native Americans. There were no people on these two continents. It has to be, several million years ago, I guess it was. There's hundreds of thousands of years. They came from someplace else. They came from someplace else and settled in this country. Not country, in the North and South America, right?
Yep. So we're getting on toward the last of the show. I'd like to show the Starship video. Why don't we show video 910? It shows something that SpaceX has been doing. And let's see. They didn't launch the Starship here. They launched that from Texas.
What number is it?
That's 910.
Okay.
The Margaritaville Hotel has a better view, but that is a successful boost landing burn ignition. And we seem to have down selected
all 13 engines lit up.
Wonderful news. We're going to see that hover over the Gulf and then a shutdown of those Raptor engines. There's the hover.
It's with 3 engines there. Wow.
Whoa.
That's an incredible shot. Here comes an explosion.
Boom, as advertised. and there is your rad, because that was planned, everybody. That is not an unexpected outcome.
Yeah.
Who was that? Was that a rocket of some kind, or it was a drone or something? What was it exactly?
That was the really big spaceship that Musk has made. They call that Starship. It's going to be used in the moon shots.
Yeah.
In the not too distant future. Anyway, that was launched from Texas, and they brought it down in the Indian Ocean. And as you can see, they wanted to make sure that even with the Starship, that they could do a soft landing. They could come to a complete and controlled descent. And it was beautiful.
Well, talk about
I knew when that was going.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I knew when that was going about a month ago. So, and of course, they always put a link on the internet, so I followed it live. I watched it from the launch, and I watched it come down. That's impressive.
Yeah.
We're going back to the moon, buddy.
And isn't it funny? The guy, he was an immigrant himself, Elon Musk. He came from South Africa, I guess it was, And he went to school, I think, in Canada, and he went to school here and so on. And he is now the richest guy in the world. Talk about an immigrant that made it in the United States. And they think he will be the first trillionaire.
Yeah.
And he's, can be like, he got a little play in politics at the beginning of this Trump's term, and I'm sure they're still in pretty good terms. Let's face it, you want to have the richest guy in the world on your side. I've said that, in fact, as the people, as some of these Omar and some of these other Congress people and so on, go in and spend, say, $200 million to not elect them, AOC and so on, and just to get them out. And he has the money, so he can do it very easily. As far as doing that, of course, that won't happen. But and of course, Republicans too, he could go after. But you haven't heard the last of Elon Musk. Put it that way.
Remember how the Twitter thing went? Somebody said, "Oh, you like Twitter so much, why don't you buy it?" And he says, "Huh? How much is it?"
Yeah. Laura Capps says that Isla Vista has the very low-income people. That the students, they're all very poor and so on. I went down Del Playa the other day just to count them and so on, counting how many Teslas were there in Isla Vista. I think it was 27. 27 Teslas on one street.
Yeah.
And of course all the Mercedes and BMWs and so on and so on. They're not poor. They don't come from very poor. They're doing very well. Anyway, only got about a minute left, but we are a country of mongrels, basically, and intermarry. We are the first in black person marrying a white person. We're the leader anywhere in the world. We are the leader in that, and that's good, and that is good. I know of a couple people that I have a nephew, in fact, that married a black woman from Maryland. And she was a PhD, and she brings home the money. She now works in the Riverside and runs some kind of department down there in Riverside. Very good deal. And quite honestly, I thought it was a little bad. When I met her, that was over. That was she was the best. She was the best thing that ever happened to Andy. Put it that way. Anyway, we've got about half a minute. So, again, any last words?
I'm not going to show this stuff right now, but you got to trust your eyes less and less. I'm starting to see lots of videos that are totally made up by AI. Right now they have watermarks that tell you that they're fake. Soon they won't.
Yeah.
So don't believe everything you see.
Okay, we only got 10 seconds left, so I guess I'll just say goodnight, and thanks, Rob, wherever you are. I know where you are, but you have a nice place there. Say hello to Chris for me. Say hello to Chris for me. Chris, are you there? Is she there?
She's here.
Well, thank you very much.